Yo, what's happening, Raider Nation? It's your boy Soto here. You know what it is. Raiders versus the world. Talking about a team the world loves to hate, your Las Vegas Raiders. Okay, we need to wrap our heads around this, all right? Ashton Jeanty is one of the top 2 or 3, 4 players in this entire draft, all right? Look, if you look at it from this perspective, okay, and it's not just me saying it, okay? It's Todd McShay said it directly out of his mouth. He said this is the best and deepest running back class he has ever seen, ever. Now, from that perspective, you see Ashton Jeanty being the head and shoulders best. You see Ashton Jeanty head and shoulders above the rest of the running back class. This tells you how good Ashton Jeanty is. Now, you heard me talk about Ashton Jeanty and how I feel about him and his game. You saw me break down his tape. You heard what John Spytek had to say about how they felt about Ashton Jeanty. Well, now we're going to get Rhett Lewis and Bucky Brooks, their opinion on Ashton Jeanty and his fit with the Raiders, and also maybe a little bit of interview from the rookie mini camp, okay? But before we do, I want to make sure everyone please like, comment, and subscribe to this video. It's an excellent way to support the channel. It's absolutely free to do, and it's the bare minimum you can do to support the channel besides doing absolutely nothing and just watching the video, but I always do appreciate that. Okay, that is out of the way. Let's hear what Rhett Lewis and Bucky Brooks have to say about the Ashton Jeanty pick, number 6 overall.
All right, Raider Nation. Welcome back. The finale of the Raiders NFL Draft Podcast is now off and running. And man, I love this weekend, Bucky Brooks. It's the most hopeful weekend on the NFL calendar. 3 days, 7 rounds, 257 picks. The Raiders end up making 11 of them, tied for the most in the league with a couple other teams. But it's a chance to feel good about the work that you've done for the last 11 months, right? It is a year-round process, and I'd love for you to just put into perspective, for everybody who's been following us here, throughout the course of the last couple of weeks, like what this process means to then kind of see the fruits of your labor come to bear.
Yeah, no, for scouts and team builders, the draft is everything. The draft is their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The joy comes in when you really go hard for a prospect in your area. You see this prospect, you finally see him picked by your team. You go to mini camp and training camp, and he becomes a longtime contributor for your team. That's the ultimate. And so a lot of these guys are anxiously awaiting the silver and black to hit the grass, because then you begin to get a feel for, okay, my guy looks all right. How is he doing?
Yeah. So you get invested.
Yeah, it's a very look, it's a lot of fun. But yeah, that next step, that next phase that we're about to go to now that the draft is done, is really when scouts get excited to kind of see all of their hard work pay off.
For sure. And look, I think, considering that this is all a little bit new, right? That's another dynamic here. You had some scouts that had been in the process, throughout the college football season, and then, essentially get a new boss, right? In John Spytek and in Pete Carroll. And they kind of have to come together, find a cohesive unit and workflow together. I'm sure there was some carryover, and you kind of get some of these guys through the industry, but they all came together and found 11 players that they believe that the Raiders are going to use to help bring success to Las Vegas. And it really started at the top. And then a draft, Buck, that we talked about oftentimes, whether it was here on the Raiders NFL Draft Podcast or whether it was on NFL Network, this was a draft that felt like maybe was a little bit short on blue chip prospects, but the Raiders got one from the blue turf in Boise State at pick number 6. And to me, this felt like, one, you got an elite level player, but you got a cultural fit, right? With how Pete Carroll wants to guide this organization, not only in the near term, in immediate impact, which we expect, but for the long haul as well, in terms of building a consistent winner.
Yeah, this is exactly when we talk about a cultural fit. We can talk about prospects and the most important part being fit in scheme, fit in environment. Well, Ashton Jeanty checks off both of those boxes. You talk about a player that was a very decorated player, a guy who over the long haul at Boise State proved to be a great player over time. Everything that you want to hear from people as they're endorsing a prospect. Man, coach signed off. Everyone around the program signed off. Great player, great kid, loves it. really poured into himself and making himself a greater player. When you hear the stories about taking the NIL money and pouring into his body and making sure that he could be the best player that he could be as he had an eye towards the NFL, to me, those are the things that we talk about, guys that really want to love it, not interested, but really love everything about the process. That's Ashton Jeanty. Then when you turn on the tape, you talk about a guy who earns the comparisons to a LaDainian Tomlinson or a Josh Jacobs, wherever it falls in that spectrum. High end being a gold jacket player that dominated and changed the fortunes of a division rival. You're talking about having that kind of playmaker for the Raiders, and Pete Carroll certainly knows what it's like to have a dominant player. You go back to those days in Seattle when he had Marshawn Lynch and how Marshawn Lynch anchored that offense as the centerpiece. Well, Ashton Jeanty has an opportunity to do that. And look, you can't get a much better player or a much better person to occupy that role as the centerpiece of an offense.
As we say, checks all the boxes. It felt like a home run pick. And for so long, we had kind of been mocking and talking about the Raiders being, the team that fills out the card with Ashton Jeanty's name on it there at number 6, so much so that it almost became a little bit of fatigue. And you kind of tried to get away from it by the end of the process. You're like, it's just, we've been talking about this for so long. There's no way it's actually going to happen. And then, of course, it does end up happening. And I think it'll end up bringing some really good things to Geno Smith in this offense, in the Raiders as a whole, because he does feel like a foundational player.
Yeah, guys. I mean, look, everything that they said is things that were echoed by everyone who talked about Ashton Jeanty. It's not a surprise. It's not anything that people are making up, because everyone is telling you the exact same thing about this guy. He's a great player. He's a great person. He's a hard worker. He gets it. He understands it. He's a great teammate. When you take your NIL money, look, he could have gone anywhere he wanted to this last year, right? He could have gone anywhere he wanted to in the country. He wanted to stay at Boise State. Now, I'm not saying he didn't get paid, because he did. Okay, let's just be honest about everything, and that's fine. He took the NIL money, but he used that, and he didn't go and he didn't buy a McCarran. He didn't go and buy a watch or any of that stuff. What he did was he used that money to put into his body for recovery, for I think it was private meals that he got, like a meal prep, like a very expensive meal prep service, workouts, things like that, to make himself better, to make his body to recovery. All these things that he did, he put the money back, invested that money into his body, and we saw the fruits of his labor. This is something that you can't overstate, all right? When somebody gets it that young and they're that good, we see these people that understand how things work, and they maximize their potential now. They're not superstar players. They're very good players, or, marginal players, whatever, but they're maximizing their abilities. When you have a player that has the ability of Ashton Jeanty, and these guys said it, not me. LaDainian Tomlinson, Josh Jacobs. I've heard Emmitt Smith a little bit too sometimes. This guy shows this ability of all these backs in one. And you see this guy who gets it, who understands that he needs to put all this into his body to be able to play his best and to be his best. And you love to see that happen when someone gets it and they have that ability. And we just happen to have that guy on our team. So rookie minicamp just let out. So I want to play a little bit of a press conference of Ashton Jeanty from rookie minicamp. So check this out.
Oh, you're cool. So how's it feel being out here?
Sure, it feels great. Lifelong dream. So finally be out here, get to work with the team. It's just exciting.
Is it a lot of, how much of it right now is mental reps opposed to physical reps out here?
It's a good bit. I mean, this first day on the field, so
get on the mic, baby.
Seeing everything, how it all works, but also when you're not going, just watching other people and other plays that you got to learn as well.
What would you say so far has been kind of the biggest transition for you from coming out of college into the NFL, joining the rookie camp?
I mean, I'll probably just say just new city. I mean, it's a little dry out here, hotter, so I'll probably say that's the biggest change.
Have you had a favorite moment, like since you were drafted? Like, it's kind of been a whirlwind, I guess, but have you had some moment that you're like, oh, this is real cool?
Yeah, for sure, just celebrating with my family, just sharing the moment with them.
Jack was just talking about how, everyone's drafted or undrafted. You're all on the same playing field now. What's it like, the camaraderie, getting to know the guys, and kind of building that culture of this class?
Yeah, it's great. You know, it's a new brotherhood. You know, we all welcome each other, getting to know each other. You know, Pete Carroll was saying it yesterday. We all got to be connected and build relationships, and you know that's gonna make us a better team and teammates.
What stood out about getting to know Jack specifically? You two guys probably should have a large role in this offense for years to come.
Yeah, just great guy, good energy, just ready to come to work and ready to compete every day.
There's still a little bit of a debate about how your horse game went against Pete. Have you guys had a rematch, maybe settle it? Where does that stand now?
No, we ain't had a rematch yet, but I'm sure in the near future he'll put me back on the hoops.
Ashton, what are you hoping to get from these next couple of days here at Rookie Minicamp?
Just build relationships with everybody around the building, get to know everyone, let them know who I am as a person, get better, learn the playbook, and just embrace the new city and new place.
Ashton, just what have been your early impressions of being around Pete Carroll in the facility and how you're in practice?
Yeah, he's dope. He's everything everybody says he is. Attention to detail. Just a great coach, great energy, great personality, and I'm excited to continue building a relationship with him.
Anything else? Thanks, Ashton.
Thanks, Ashton.
All right, just a quick look into the mind of Ashton Jeanty and how it works. It's all about relationships. When he was asked, what are you looking to get out of these next few days? And he's like, I want to get to know people. I wanted to get them to get to know me. I want to build relationships. And then when Pete comes in and says, you got to do that, got to learn each other, be there for each other, connect with each other. This is something that is, whenever you see a team that's very successful for a long period of time, there's a connection there with those teammates. It's not infighting. No, don't get me wrong. These guys want each other's spots. They want to start. They want to play. They want to make those contracts. But there's a way you can do it in a healthy manner that you're not stepping on other people. And I think this is a good thing for this team to have that kind of from the leadership down, everyone's saying, hey, go connect with your teammates, right? Get to know each other, have them get to know you so you can go ahead and move forward. All right, guys, that's my time for today. Really appreciate you guys watching. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to this video. It's an excellent way to support the channel. It's absolutely free to do. And it's the bare minimum you can do to support the channel besides doing absolutely nothing and just watching the video. Guys, we're growing leaps and bounds, and it's all about you guys. I really appreciate you guys. So everybody, please tell your friends, tell your haters, tell your mamas, tell your baby mamas, tell everybody. Raiders versus the world is the greatest thing going in Raider Nation today. All right, guys, that's my time. Till next time, everybody. Peace. Hey, Raider Nation. Thanks for watching. There's plenty more where that came from. Go ahead and smash that like button. Drop a comment. Make sure to subscribe and share to all your socials. It's the bare minimum you can do without doing absolutely nothing.